Plant 7 vines once. Your family eats for 200 years. I know how that sounds. Stay with me because this isn't gardening advice. It's a survival strategy, a biological inheritance, something your great-great-grandchildren will still be eating from long after every grocery store you've ever walked into is gone. Most gardeners are on their knees every spring, replanting, rebuying, restarting. A small group of homesteaders found a different way. Perennial vines, not trees you wait a decade for, not annuals that die at first frost. Climbing plants that return stronger every year, renewing themselves through a process scientists call vegetative immortality. Researchers at Cornell and the University of Minnesota have documented vining systems that, managed correctly, feed multiple human generations without ever being replanted. 200 years, that's not a metaphor. I've put together 7 specific vines, backed by research, that any family can plant once and harvest from for generations. Stay until vine number 6. The science behind it was almost completely buried by mainstream agriculture, and the reason why will make you furious. Let's get into it. Vine 1, hardy kiwi. Vine number 1. I'm starting here on purpose, because this one destroys every excuse you have for not starting today. The hardy kiwi, Actinidia arguta, grows 25 to 30 feet tall. Single shoots run 6 to 12 feet in one season, and once established, it survives down to -45 degrees Celsius, colder than most of Alaska. Here's the number that stops people cold. 430 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams of fruit, roughly 6 times the concentration of a standard orange, not slightly better, 6 times. And unlike the fuzzy kiwi at your grocery store, smooth-skinned, grape-sized, no peeling, no prep, you walk outside, you eat them off the vine. One mature vine, 50 to 90 pounds of fruit per season, planted once. Here's what most people miss. This vine expands through basal shooting and natural ground layering. Low-hanging stems touch soil, form roots, produce new plants. Prune every 7 to 10 years and the vine resets its biological clock. Researchers call it resetting the plant's epigenetic clock, keeping it young, aggressive, and productive decade after decade. One non-negotiable, drainage. Waterlogged soil triggers Phytophthora root rot, and it moves fast. Deep, well-drained loam. pH between 5.6 and 6.5. One male pollinator for every 6 to 8 female vines positioned upwind. Get that right. This vine will still be feeding your family when your grandchildren are doing the pruning. Vine 2, perennial grapes. Vine number 2 has been feeding families for over a century at a time. Science is now revealing exactly why. Cultivated grapevines, Vitis labrusca, Vitis vinifera. Documented to sustain yields for well over 100 years, properly managed. And the reason starts underground. Grapevines form deep symbiotic relationships with arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, a biological partnership that dramatically improves root development, shoot length, and phosphorus absorption. Vines inoculated at planting show significantly better establishment and less dependence on synthetic fertilizers for life. Here's something most growers never learn. Inflorescence, the first stage of berry formation, begins in the buds the previous year. The vine is already planning next season's harvest while this one is still ripening. Breeders at the University of Minnesota developed cold-hardy hybrids, Marquette, Frontenac, La Crescent, engineered to survive brutal Midwestern winters while producing award-quality fruit. One vine, one planting, a century of harvests. Vine 3, Caucasian mountain spinach. Vine number 3 solves the problem every serious homesteader eventually hits. You can have all the fruit in the world, but if your family can't eat greens through summer, your food system has a gap. And most leafy crops fail you exactly when you need them most. Summer heat arrives. Standard spinach bolts, turns bitter, dies. Lettuce follows. Your salad bowl goes empty right in the middle of the growing season. Hablitzia tamnuds, Caucasian mountain spinach. This vine fixes that permanently. Native to the temperate forest understories of the Caucasus, it climbs 10 feet in a single season using its twinning leaf petioles. Thrives in cool, damp conditions standard crops hate. Prefers shade, making it the only productive food vine that fills the dark corners of your food forest nothing else will touch. It doesn't just survive summer, it harvests through it. Early spring straight through autumn. Mild, nutritious leaves, while every annual green around it has already given up. Here's the number that matters. One specimen in Norrtälje, Sweden, documented producing continuously for over 50 years. Not decades in theory. 50 years of recorded, uninterrupted harvest from one plant. The leaves are dense with carotenoids, folates, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc, with oxalates and nitrates within safe levels. This isn't just a survival green, it's a genuinely nutritious one. Propagation takes patience. Seeds need cold stratification, 1 to 6 months to break dormancy. But once established, mature crowns divide in early spring. Expand your planting indefinitely, at zero cost. One vine, 50+ years of greens, from the shadiest corner of your yard. Vine 4, American groundnut. Vine number 4 fed entire civilizations. Then modern agriculture forgot it existed. Apios americana, the American groundnut, the Indian potato. A native North American climbing legume, grows 8 to 16 feet per season and produces food from 2 directions at once. Above ground, dense clusters of fragrant burgundy flowers that develop into edible pods. Below ground, chains of starchy, protein-rich tubers along underground rhizomata stems. Those tubers contain approximately 27.1% carbohydrates and 3 times the protein of a standard potato. 3 times the protein, from a plant that asks almost nothing from you. And it gets better, because Apios americana is a legume. It forms a symbiotic relationship with rhizobium bacteria in its roots, actively fixing atmospheric nitrogen directly into the soil. This vine doesn't just feed your family, it feeds your soil while doing it. This isn't folklore. When early European settlements faced total crop failure, it was wild groundnut tubers that kept entire communities alive through brutal winters. Recorded history. Harvesting is simple. Dig up portions of the tuber chain in autumn after the first hard freeze. Leave the smaller segments in the ground. They sprout again the following spring. No replanting required. The colony expands every year. The harvest gets heavier. The soil underneath gets richer. Plant it once. The groundnut does the rest. Vine 5, chayote. Vine number 5 will make your neighbors stop at the fence and ask what on earth you're growing. Sechium edgel chayote. Also called choco, mirliton across the American South. Cultivated since the time of the Aztec Empire, and in warm, frost-free climates, zones 8 through 11, a single mature vine stretches 40 feet across your trellis and delivers 60 to 100 pounds of fruit per season, from one plant, planted once. But the number isn't even the most impressive part. Every part of this plant is edible. The fruits, the young shoots, harvested and stir-fried like gourmet asparagus. The starch-rich tubers develop quietly underground while the vine produces above. This is a 5-in-1 food factory climbing your fence while you go about your life. Here's the botanical detail that surprises everyone the first time they hear it. Chayote exhibits vivipary, the single large seed inside the fruit germinates while still attached to the parent vine. It never fully separates. You don't plant a seed with chayote. You plant the entire fruit. The sprouted end angled slightly downward into organic-rich, well-draining soil. That's it. One fruit from your kitchen, decades of food from your yard. In colder zones, above-ground foliage dies at first frost, but the tuberous rootstock survives moderate winter freezes. Mulch it with 6 inches of compost before temperatures drop. Come spring, the vine doesn't start over. It picks up where it left off, with an even more established root engine driving it. One real input: water, high water requirement, pH between 6 and 6.8. Give it moisture, give it something to climb, then step back. By midsummer, the question won't be whether it's producing. It'll be what you're going to do with all of it. Vine 6 maypop. I told you vine number 6 would stop you in your tracks. Here it is. Passiflora incarnata, the maypop, native North American passion flower. Before science, you need to understand what this vine looks like when it blooms. The most structurally complex, breathtakingly beautiful flowers produced by any plant native to this continent. Specialized pollinators drawn from a distance. Every single bloom lasts exactly 1 day. But it's not on this list because of its flowers. It's on this list because of what lives underground. The maypop produces an aggressive underground runner system, spreading outward from the original planting, sometimes surfacing feet away from where you put it in the ground. Winter kills the above-ground foliage completely. The root network stays dormant, undamaged. Come spring, the clonal colony resurfaces. New crowns emerge, each one more productive than the last. Researchers describe this stoloniferous growth habit as making the maypop practically immortal in a food forest setting. The colony expands and replaces older crowns continuously, on its own, without you. Hardy through zones 6 to 11, climbs 20 to 25 feet, produces oval yellow fruits in late summer filled with sweet, aromatic pulp. But the seeds deserve special attention, because the science behind them is something mainstream nutrition has almost entirely overlooked. Passiflora incarnata seeds contain 48 to 65% dietary fiber on a dry weight basis, alongside bioactive polyphenols including pisotanol, a compound with documented antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and metabolic improvement properties confirmed in peer-reviewed research. A vine that spreads itself, renews itself, feeds your family above ground and builds their health below the surface. And it was growing wild in North America, long before anyone thought to put it in a garden. 6 vines. Between them fruit, greens, tubers, protein, medicinal compounds, every season, every layer of your food forest, for generations. But I need to ask you something honestly. Are you someone who thinks in seasons, or someone who thinks in generations? Because vine number 7 is different. It's what I've been building toward since the first minute of this video. And once you understand what it does inside a perennial food system, it will completely change the way you think about soil, productivity, and what it means to leave something behind. If you're still here, you already know the answer. Comment legacy below right now, because that's exactly what we're building. Let's finish this. Vine 7, Scarlet Runner Bean. Vine number 7, the one I promised you at the start. Phasalis coccineus, the Scarlet Runner Bean, known for centuries by another name. The 7-year bean. Here's why, and the moment you understand it, everything clicks. Most people see a climbing bean, bright scarlet flowers, large pods, beautiful, productive, familiar. What mainstream gardening buried is the secret living underneath the soil. The scarlet runner bean grows a thick, starch-storing tuberous rootstock underground. In mild winters or colder climates with heavy mulching, that rootstock survives beneath the soil and explodes back in early spring. Not as a fragile seedling, as a fully established, deeply rooted perennial that bypasses the most vulnerable stage of annual bean production entirely. Same root, every year, getting stronger every single season. That's why they called it the 7-year bean. The vine climbs 10 to 15 feet and produces abundantly, two completely different harvests timed by nothing more than when you choose to pick. Harvest young pods early, sweeter and more tender than any standard green bean. Leave them to mature large, beautifully marked seeds, protein-rich, dried, stored for winter. One vine, two harvests, zero replanting. But here's what makes it indispensable inside a food forest specifically. Its root system hosts nitrogen-fixing rhizobium bacteria, pulling atmospheric nitrogen into the soil and depositing it around every neighboring plant's root zone. Cut the spent vines down at soil level each season. Lay them around your heavy-feeding fruit crops. They become nutrient-dense, nitrogen-rich green mulch that feeds the system that feeds your family. This vine doesn't just produce, it builds. Researchers confirm that integrating nitrogen-fixing legume vines into a perennial guild measurably improves yields across the entire system over time. The scarlet runner bean isn't just vine number 7. It's the engine that makes every other vine on this list more productive. Plant it at the base of a young fruit tree. Let it climb. Cut it back in winter. Watch what it does to the soil by spring. 7 vines, one system, built not for this season but for the next 200 years. Before we close, let me put something in front of you. Every vine we covered today is backed by documented research. The clonal immortality of hardy kiwi, the nitrogen-fixing roots of American groundnut and scarlet runner bean, the 50-year harvest record of Caucasian mountain spinach, the stoloniferous expansion of maypop, the vivipary of chayote, the mycorrhizal partnerships of perennial grapes. Not folklore, not homestead romanticism, peer-reviewed plant science pointing at a system human beings understood for centuries. That modern agriculture quietly dismantled. In the name of products, you have to buy again every single spring. Think about that trade. A seed packet that expires, a transplant that dies at first frost, a food system that resets to zero every March and charges you for the privilege. Now think about what we built today instead. 7 vines, planted once, producing across every season from every vertical layer of your property, fruit, greens, tubers, protein, medicinal compounds, feeding your household, rebuilding the soil beneath it, every passing year. This is the shift that matters, not from one gardening method to another, from consumer to producer, from someone dependent on a supply chain to someone who has quietly, permanently stepped outside of it. Your great-grandparents understood this instinctively. They didn't think in seasons. They thought for decades. They planted things they would never fully harvest themselves, because the best gift you leave the people who come after you isn't money. It's a living system that feeds them while you're gone. That's what these 7 vines are. Not a garden, a legacy. Here's what I want you to do before you close this video. Go to your yard, your balcony, your fence line, that corner of your property you've written off as useless, and ask yourself one question. Which one vine can I put in the ground this season? Not all 7, not a full food forest overnight, just one. One hardy kiwi planted today could still be feeding your family in 22-25. One maypop root in the ground this spring becomes a clonal colony that expands and renews itself every year, without you lifting a finger. The 200-year system starts with one decision, today. Drop a comment, which of these 7 vines are you planting first? And tell me your USDA zone. The right vine for your climate matters, and I read every single comment. If this video changed the way you think about what a garden can actually be, hit that like button now. 1 second. Helps this reach the people who need it most. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week we're going underground, covering the root layer companions that make every one of these vines twice as productive in year 2. The best time to plant was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.